Microsoft today is worth $3 trillion. Their annual revenue sits at around $250 billion. Their annual profits at over $100 billion. That's more than the GDP of two-thirds of the world's countries. To be precise, that is more than the GDP of 144 countries, including Bhutan, Maldives, Sri Lanka, Bahrain, and Azerbaijan. But did you know, just a decade back in 2014, Microsoft was struggling. Their stock price was down nearly 40% from their highs of 2000. Under CEO Steve Ballmer, between 2000 and 2014, Microsoft made some major mistakes. Firstly, they were caught sleeping on the smartphone race. They fell behind both Apple and Google. Apple very obviously, but Google because Google ended up buying Android for just $50 million. Then, in a desperate attempt to get back on the smartphone race, Steve ended up buying Nokia's phone business for $7.2 billion. He did this to spread Windows in the smartphone market. However, in hindsight, we all know that it was a loss of $7.2 billion. Further, under Steve Ballmer, Microsoft was also caught sleeping in the cloud computing business. Here is what Jeff Bezos has to say about the same.
It's like the greatest piece of business luck in the history of business so far as I know. We faced no like-minded competition for 7 years. It's unbelievable. It was a whole confluence of things. I think that the big established enterprise software companies did not see Amazon as a credible enterprise software company. And so we had this long run.
He is particularly talking about Google and Microsoft in this case. For all these reasons and many more, Steve Ballmer was regarded as the worst CEO by many. But the winds of change started blowing in 2014. Their next CEO, Satya Nadella, was going to turn the company around. When Steve Ballmer resigned and Satya was announced to be the new CEO, the stock rallied 7% on that very day. But that was just the start. The stock of Microsoft would go on to rally 11 times over the next 10 years, and their market capitalization went from under $300 billion to over $3 trillion. But what exactly did Satya Nadella do? Welcome back to another video of our channel and to our 16th business case study. This time on how Satya Nadella transformed Microsoft. Before becoming CEO, Satya Nadella had served multiple roles within Microsoft, where his primary responsibility was cloud computing and business solutions. This also brings us to the first reason why Microsoft succeeded under Satya Nadella. Under Satya, Microsoft invested heavily in Azure or Azure, whatever we want to call it. Microsoft's cloud computing platform providing business solutions like software as a service, commonly known as SaaS, infrastructure as a service, and platform as a service to businesses around the world. Here is more about it from Microsoft itself.
Azure is Microsoft's cloud computing platform with an ever-expanding set of services to help you build solutions to meet your business goals. Azure supports infrastructure, platform, and software as a service computing with services such as virtual machines running in the cloud, website and database hosting, and advanced computing services like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and IoT.
Azure or Azure since then has come out to be one of the top players in this business alongside Amazon Web Services, which we heard Jeff Bezos talk about previously. Under Satya Nadella, Microsoft invested heavily in building data centers around the world, ensuring Azure's availability and compliance in different regions. This global reach allowed Microsoft to attract clients with specific regional data storage and privacy needs, further boosting Azure's growth. Today, Azure or Azure contributes $75 billion to Microsoft's total revenue, and this number is expected to rise to $200 billion by 2028. For reference, Microsoft's revenue is $250 billion. Another area where Microsoft has shown tremendous progress and change is in embracing the open source. Back in the days, Microsoft thrived on selling products which were closed source, such as Windows and Microsoft Office. Open source operating systems such as Linux were seen as rivals. In fact, there was one instance where Steve Ballmer was caught calling Linux cancer. This was the degree of hostility that Microsoft back then had against open source. Microsoft Office 2, if you remember, used to be Windows exclusive and it was not available on any other operating system such as Mac. However, as soon as Satya Nadella came in, this began to change. The first step was to make Microsoft Office, which was a Windows exclusive, open source. it was finally available on other operating systems such as Apple. In fact, I used Microsoft Word while scripting this video on my Mac. Further, Microsoft acquired GitHub, the largest platform for open source collaboration, for $7.5 billion. This move just further demonstrated Microsoft's willingness to embrace open source. And that's how Nadella shifted Microsoft's approach from a very competitive one to a rather collaborative one. And this also brings us to the third reason behind the success of Microsoft. Back in the days, Microsoft relied heavily on selling perpetual licenses on products like the Microsoft Office and Windows. While this did provide a one-time revenue, it lacked predictability. For instance, a Microsoft license in 2010 would cost up to $500. However, under Satya Nadella, subscription model was introduced. Subscription services were based on a fixed monthly payment for services like Microsoft 365 or a customizable monthly payment in the case of Azure. This not only smoothened out the revenue cycles but also gave greater predictability in terms of future earnings for investors. Further, by shifting towards a subscription model, Microsoft did not just ensure regular revenue, but they also improved accessibility for these products. For instance, let's talk about Microsoft Office itself, right? It's much easier to pay $10 or $15 per month than paying $500 one time for a product. This was also the model they chose for other services, such as the Xbox Game Pass. Microsoft's transition to a subscription-based model also transformed the company from a product-centric organization to a service-centric organization, creating sustainable growth, deepening customer relationships, and positioning itself as a leader in the digital economy. This model is now the foundation for Microsoft's long-term growth. These were the three strategies using which Satya Nadella transformed Microsoft. In addition to this, over the last few years, Microsoft has also been investing very heavily into artificial intelligence. Microsoft invested $14 billion in OpenAI, which is the owner of platforms like ChatGPT, and now holds a 49% stake in the company. They've also been investing very heavily into Copilot AI. How will these bets turn out? Well, only future can tell. For now, I wish you all a very happy and prosperous 2025. I really hope this year turns out to be a wonderful one for all of us. And as always, thank you so much for watching.